Cheers, guys. Welcome back. And today, I'm going to be doing readings from Psycho-Cybernetics. I've spoken about this book before by Maxwell Maltz. I have here the original copy, and I actually have a bunch of underlines and just pen notations in here because I first picked this book up almost 10 years ago, and it really made a profound impact on me. Just similarly to As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, it's extremely foundational in terms of understanding your self-concept, really. And in this book, he uses the term self-image, but they're interchangeable. It's talking about the same thing, the way that you perceive yourself, your conception of yourself, your image that you hold in your mind of yourself, what you cannot do, all of those different things. And I'm going to go in right now. I'm going to read the preface, and then we're going to go chapter by chapter. I'm going to give you guys my breakdown similar to how I did in As a Man Thinketh. And I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I've now committed to doing it. So let's begin. So the preface: the secret to using this book to change your life. Discovery of the self-image represents a breakthrough in psychology and the field of creative personality. The significance of the self-image has been recognized for more than a decade, yet there has been little written about it. Curiously enough, this is not because self-image psychology has not worked, but because it's worked so amazingly well. As one of my colleagues expressed it, I'm reluctant to publish my findings, especially for the lay public, because if I presented some of my case histories and described the rather amazing and spectacular improvements in personality, I would be accused of exaggerating or trying to start a cult, or both. I too felt the same sort of reluctance. Any book I might write on the subject would be sure to be regarded as somewhat unorthodox by some of my colleagues for several reasons. In the first place, it is somewhat unorthodox for a plastic surgeon to write a book on psychology. In the second, it will be probably regarded in some quarters as even more unorthodox to go outside the tight little dogma. You guys have heard me say before how I don't like the dogma in the manifesting community, the closed system of the science of psychology, and seek answers concerning human behavior in the fields of physics, anatomy, and the new science of cybernetics. My answer is that any good plastic surgeon is and must be a psychologist, whether he would have it so or not. When you change a man's face, you almost invariably change his future, change his physical image, and nearly always you change the man, his personality, his behavior, and sometimes even his basic talents and abilities. Beauty is more than skin deep. A plastic surgeon does not simply alter a man's face, he alters the man's inner self. The incisions he makes are more than skin deep. They frequently cut deep into the psyche as well. I decided a long time ago that this is an awesome responsibility and that I owe it to my patients and to myself to know something about what I am doing. No responsible MD would attempt to perform extensive plastic surgery without specialized knowledge and training. Just so, I feel that if changing a man's face is going to change the inner man as well, I have a responsibility to acquire specialized knowledge in that field also. Failures that led to success. In a previous book written some 20 years ago, New Faces, New Futures, I published a more or less collection of case studies where plastic surgery, and particularly facial plastic surgery, has opened the door to a new life for many people. That book told of the amazing changes that often occur quite suddenly and dramatically in a person's personality when you change his face. I was elevated at my success in this respect, but like Sir Humphrey Davy, I learned more from my failures than from my successes. Some patients showed no change in personality after surgery. In most cases, a person who had a conspicuously ugly face or some freakish feature corrected by surgery experienced an almost immediate, usually within 21 days, rise in self-esteem, self-confidence, but in some cases, the patient continued to feel inadequate and experience feelings of inferiority. In short, these failures continued to feel, act, and behave just as if they had an ugly face. This indicated to me that the reconstruction of the physical image itself was not the real key to changes in personality. There was something else which was usually influenced by facial surgery, but sometimes not. When this something else was reconstructed, the person himself changed. When this something else was not reconstructed, the person remained the same, although his physical features might be radically different. It was as if personality itself had a face. This non-physical, and I have this part highlighted, face of personality seemed to be the real key to personality change. If not remained scarred, distorted, ugly, or inferior, and a lot of these things he has in quotations like ugly, because sometimes these things can be subjective, the person himself acted out this role in behavior regardless of the changes in physical appearance. If his face of personality could be reconstructed, if old emotional scars could be removed, then the person himself changed even without plastic surgery. Once I began to explore this area, I found more and more phenomena which confirmed the fact that self-image, the individual's mental and spiritual concept or picture of himself, was the real key to personality and behavior. More about this in the first chapter. Truth is where you find it. I've always believed in going wherever it may be necessary to find truth, even if international borders must be crossed. Once I decided to become a plastic surgeon years ago, German doctors were far ahead of the rest of the world in this field, so I went to Germany. In my search for the self-image, I also had to cross boundaries, although invisible ones. Although the science of psychology acknowledged the self-image and its key role in human behavior, psychology's answer to the questions of how the self-image exerts its influence, how it creates a new personality, what happens inside the human nervous system when the self-image is changed, was somehow. I found most of my answers in the new science of cybernetics, which restored teleology as a respectable concept in science. It is rather strange that the new science of cybernetics grew out of the work of the physicists and mathematicians rather than that of psychologists, especially when it's understood that cybernetics has to do with teleology, goal striving, goal-oriented behavior of mechanical systems. Cybernetics explains what happens and what is necessary in the purposeful behavior of machines. Psychology, with all its vaunted knowledge of the human psyche, had no satisfactory answer for such a simple, goal-oriented, purposeful situation as, for example, how it is possible for a human being to pick up a cigarette from a coffee table and place it in his mouth. But the physicist had an answer. The proponents of many psychological theories were somewhat comparable to men who speculated as to what was in outer space and on other planets, but could not tell what was in their own backyards. The new science of cybernetics made it possible an important breakthrough in psychology. I myself take no credit for the breakthrough other than the recognition of it. The fact that this breakthrough came from the work of physicists and mathematicians should not surprise us. Any breakthrough in science is likely to come from outside systems. Experts are most thoroughly familiar with developed knowledge inside and prescribe the boundaries of any given science. Any new knowledge must usually come from the outside, not from experts, but from what somebody has defined as input. That's interesting because it touches on the fact that sometimes the more that we know about a given subject, the more likely that we are to only think within the context of that field. That's why people that go, as he mentions, doctors or people that are very trained in a specific way of thinking and looking at things only through one perspective, they actually have a hard time almost unlearning things, or they have a hard time accepting new truths and new information because they're so caught in their paradigm that they've been in. And really paid to look at the facts as they've been taught them rather than to be open to any new information. Pasteur was not an MD. The Wright brothers were not astrological engineers, but bicycle mechanics. Einstein, properly speaking, was not a physicist, but a mathematician. Yet his findings in mathematics completely turned upside down the pet theories in physics. Madame Curie was not an MD, but a physicist, yet she made important contributions to medical science. How you can use this new knowledge. In this book, I've attempted not only to inform you of this new knowledge from the field of cybernetics, but also to demonstrate how you can use it in your own life to achieve goals important to you. General principles. The self-image is the key to human personality and human behavior. Change the self-image and you change the personality and the behavior. But more than this, the self-image sets the boundaries of individual accomplishment. It defines what you can and cannot do. Expand the self-image and you expand the area of the possible. The development of an adequate, realistic self-image will seem to imbue the individual with new capabilities, new talents, and literally turn failure into success. And I have that part highlighted as well. Self-image psychology has not only been proved on its own merits, but it explains many phenomena which have long been known but not properly understood in the past. For example, there is today irrefutable clinical evidence in the fields of individual psychology, psychosomatic medicine, and industrial psychology that there are success-type personalities and failure-type personalities, happiness-prone personalities and unhappiness-prone personalities, health-prone personalities and disease-prone personalities. Self-image psychology throws new light on these and many other observable facts in life. It throws new light on the power of positive thinking and, more importantly, explains why it works with some individuals and not with others. Positive thinking does indeed work when it is consistent with the individual's self-image. It literally cannot work when it is inconsistent with the self-image, until the self-image itself has been changed. Very key to understand. That's why when we're doing affirmations or any of these, working with the self-concept, working with any of the tools that we use to manifest, or for, as Maxwell Maltz would say, accomplish our goals. If we have this goal that we're going to get this external thing, but it's not in alignment with our self-image, that is to say, we believe that we're not good in relationships, we believe that we're unhealthy, but we make a resolution to have a healthy relationship or to go on a diet, it's not going to be able to be sustained because it's not in alignment with that self-image, that true, really that energetic signature and that energetic frequency. Because we're all of these things, like the psychology, the spiritual teachings, any of these things are all getting to at the truth of reality is energy. You know, Nikola Tesla said it the best: think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Because even though it's hard to believe, this book right here is a bunch of vibrating energy. Everything around us at its smallest component is energy. And when we do these things, even if we want to strive for this goal, this SP, whatever it is, when we have a self-image, self-concept, whatever you want to call it, that is saying it's putting a limit on what we're capable of, as he mentioned here before. It sets the boundaries of individual accomplishment, because your frequency is not that of somebody, and then you feel that tenseness of energy that happens when the energy is fighting against itself. You want this thing, but you have a belief it's not possible for you. You want to do XYZ, but you believe that XYZ doesn't happen for you. So, in order to understand self-image psychology and use it in your own life, you need to know something of the mechanism it employs to accomplish its goal. There is an abundance of scientific evidence which shows that the human brain and nervous system operate purposefully in accordance with the known principles of cybernetics to accomplish goals of the individual. Insofar as function is concerned, the brain and nervous system constitute a marvelous and complex goal-striving mechanism, a sort of built-in automatic guidance system which works for you as a success mechanism or against you as a failure mechanism, depending on how you, the operator, operate it and the goals you set for it. It is also rather ironic that cybernetics, which began as the study of machines and mechanical principles, goes far to restore the dignity of a man as a unique creative being. Psychology, which began on the study of man's psyche or soul, almost ended by depriving a man of his soul. The behaviorists, who understood neither the man nor his machine and thereby confused one with the other, told us that thought is merely movement of electrons and consciousness merely a chemical reaction. Will and purpose were myths. Cybernetics, which began with the study of physical machines, makes no such mistake. The science of cybernetics does not tell a man is machine, but that man has and uses a machine. Moreover, it tells us that how that machine functions and how it can be used. Experiencing is the secret. So I have this part highlighted. The self-image is changed for better or worse, not by intellect alone, or by intellectual knowledge alone, but by experiencing. Wittingly or unwittingly, you developed your self-image by your creative experiencing in the past. You can change it by the same method. It is not the child who is taught about love, but the child who has experienced love that grows into a healthy, happy, well-adjusted adult. Our present state of self-confidence and poise is that is the result of what we have experienced rather than what we have learned intellectually. Self-image psychology also bridges the gap and resolves apparent conflicts between the various therapeutic methods used today. It furnishes a common denominator for direct and indirect counseling, clinical psychology, psychoanalysis, and even autosuggestion. Autosuggestion, as we know, is robotic affirming. Again, it's using a different term for the same thing. All in one way or another, use creative experiencing to build a better self-image. So all of these different tools, he's mentioning clinical psychology and counseling and things and robotic affirming, also visualization, because visualization is a form of experiencing. All of these tools that we use at our disposal, including scripting as well, they're all tools for getting us into that experience so that we change our awareness, so that we have the experience now. That's what Neville Goddard talked about when he talked about live from the end rather than, thinking from the end rather than thinking and feeling of the end. So regardless of theories, this is what really happens. For example, in the therapeutic situation employed by the psychoanalytical school, the analyst never criticizes, disapproves, or moralizes, is never shocked as the patient pours out his fears, shames, guilt feelings, and bad thoughts. For perhaps the first time in his life, the patient experiences acceptance as a human being. He feels that his self has some worth and dignity, and he comes to accept himself and to conceive of his self in new terms. Science discovers synthetic experience. Another discovery, this time in the field of experimental and clinical psychology, enables us to use experiencing as a direct and controlled method of changing the self-image. Actual real-life experience can be a hard and ruthless teacher. Throw a man in water over his head, and the experience may teach him how to swim. The same experience may cause another to drown. The army makes a man out of many young boys, but there is no doubting that it also makes psychoneurotics. For centuries, it's been recognized that nothing succeeds like success. We learn to function successfully by experiencing success. Memories of past successes act as built-in stored information, which gives us self-confidence for the present task. But how can a person, and I have that part highlighted as well because it's important, how can a person draw upon memories of past successful experiences when he has experienced only failure? His plight is somewhat comparable to the young man who cannot secure a job because he has no experience and cannot acquire experience because he cannot get a job. This dilemma was solved by another important discovery, which for all practical purposes allows us to synthesize experience, to literally create experience and control it in the laboratory of our minds. Experimental and clinical psychologists have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that the human nervous system cannot tell the difference between an actual experience and an experience imagined vividly and in detail. There we go. This is visualization. This is what he is describing. The SATS process that Neville describes. Although this may appear to be a rather extravagant statement, we will examine some controlled laboratory experiments where this type of synthetic experience has been used in practical ways to improve the skill of dart throwing and shooting basketball goals. We'll see it at work in the lives of individuals who've used it to improve public speaking, overcome fear of the dentist, develop social poise, self-confidence, sell more goods, become more proficient in chess, and practically every other conceivable type situation where experience is recognized to bring success. We'll take a look at an amazing experiment which two prominent doctors arranged things so that neurotics could experience normally and thereby cured them. Perhaps most important of all, we will learn how chronically unhappy people have learned to enjoy life by experiencing happiness. The secret of using this book to change your life. This book has been designed not merely to read, but to be experienced. You can acquire information from reading a book, but to experience, you must creatively respond to information. Acquiring information itself is passive. Experiencing is active. When you experience, something happens inside your nervous system and your midbrain. New engrams and neural patterns are recorded in the gray matter of your brain. So what Joe Dispenza talks about this, and I have this part underlined. This book has been designed to force you literally to experience. Tailor-made, prefabricated case histories have been kept intentionally to a minimum. Instead, you are asked to furnish your own case histories by exercising imagination and memory. I have not supplied summaries at the end of each chapter. Instead, you are asked to jot down the most important points which appeal to you as key points which should be remembered. You will digest the information in this book better if you do your own analysis and summarization of the chapters. One thing you guys could do is either take notes or type up in the comments down below on this video which key points, like he mentions, are standing out to you and which should be remembered. Finally, you will find throughout the book certain things to do and certain practice exercises which you are asked to perform. These exercises are simple and easy to perform, but they must be done regularly if you're to derive maximum benefit from them. Reserve judgment for 21 days. Do not allow yourself to become discouraged if nothing seems to happen when you set about practicing the various techniques outlined in this book for changing your self-image. Instead, reserve judgment and go on practicing for a minimum period of 21 days. It usually requires a minimum of about 21 days to affect any perceptible change in a mental image. Following plastic surgery, it takes about 21 days for the average patient to get used to his new face. When an arm or leg is amputated, the phantom limb persists for about 21 days. People must live in a new house for about 3 weeks before it begins to seem like home. These and many other commonly observed phenomena tend to show that it requires a minimum of about 21 days for an old mental image to dissolve and a new one to gel. Therefore, you will derive more benefit from this book if you secure your own consent to critical judgment for 3 weeks. During this time, don't continually be looking over your shoulder, so to speak, or trying to measure your progress. These 21 days, don't argue intellectually with the ideas presented. Do not debate with yourself as to whether they'll work or not. Perform these exercises even if they seem impractical to you. Persist in playing your new role. There we have that language, right? This is the same type of language that we use, that people use in these circles, talking about Neville Goddard's teachings and these spiritual teachings. Persist, he's saying, in playing your new role, which is exactly what Neville Goddard talks about, and all of these people, that we are simply, entering that new state, viewpoint, new role, like a film. We've used this analogy before, and it's an excellent analogy. In thinking of yourself in new terms, even if you seem to yourself to be somewhat hypocritical in doing so, and even if the new self-image feels a little uncomfortable or unnatural. You can neither prove nor disprove with intellectual arguments the ideas and concepts described in this book, or simply by talking about them. You can prove them to yourself by doing them and judging results for yourself. I'm only asking that you reserve critical judgment and analytical argument for 21 days so that you will give yourself a fair chance to prove or disprove their validity in your own life. The building of an adequate self-image is something that should continue throughout a lifetime. Admittedly, you cannot accomplish a lifetime of growth in 3 weeks' time, but you can experience improvement within 3 weeks' time, and sometimes the improvement is quite dramatic. Since I use the word success and successful throughout the book, I think it's important at the outset that I define those terms. As I use it, success has nothing to do with present prestige symbols, but with creative accomplishment. Rightly speaking, no man should attempt to be a success, but every man can and should attempt to be successful. Trying to be, quote, a success in terms of acquiring prestige symbols and wearing certain badges leads to neuroticism and frustration and unhappiness. Striving to be successful brings not only material success, but satisfaction, fulfillment, and happiness. Noah Webster defines success as the satisfactory accomplishment of a goal sought for. Creative striving for a goal that is important to you as a result of your own deep-felt needs, aspirations, and talents, and not the symbols for which the Joneses expect you to display. Brings happiness as well as success because you will be functioning as you were meant to function. Man is by nature a goal-striving being. And because man is built that way, he is not happy unless he is functioning as he was made to function, as a goal striver. Thus, true success and true happiness not only go together, but each enhances the other. So that is the preface, and next we will be going into chapter 1. As you can see, the ideas in this book are going to be really, really helpful in understanding the idea of self-concept. I mean, this book is really like a masterclass in self-concept. So I don't have too much to say about this first introductory chapter. In the following chapters, I'm going to give breakdowns and dive more into the topics, basically, as we go throughout the books, there'll be exercises. I might even just, narrate some of the exercises that he guides us through, because some of them are mental rehearsal exercises. They're kind of like guided visualization or meditation type things, hypnosis, and we can do them together. And I definitely recommend, like he's saying, to take notes and leave them either in the comments down below, or keep your own note file if you're watching these and you're watching this series of videos, because having these and imprinting them and understanding them on a deeper level, like he said, it's not to be just heard. This information isn't just to be read in a passive manner. It's to be experienced, and that experience is going to come with engaging with the material. Anyways, guys, much love as always. Drop this with a like, hit me with a subscribe down below, and I will be posting the next video in this series very soon.